So if you're like me and you want nothing to do with Pokemon V or V-Star or VMAX, anything Pokemon V related right now, then this is the deck for you. So be sure to subscribe down below, as I do post up multiple fun videos every week, and this one is no exception, as we can see here. So the main attacker is the Raichu here. Big Sparking for 1 energy deals 50 damage to all of those Pokemon V that your opponent is going to be using. So things like the Mew VMAX deck, Fusion Strike 1, that has almost entirely all Pokemon V. You can do a bunch of damage to all of those. Things like Eternatus, Shadow Rider, all those decks that have a focus on VMAXs and Pokemon V, you can smack them around with this Raichu. And then you can use the second attack. 180 is going to finish them up once you soften them with a big Sparking. You do have to discard all of the energy when you hit for 180, so to supplement this we have a bunch of Flaaffy in order to get those energies back into play. And then as an additional supporting Pokemon, we do have the Zapdos here, which can deal 160 to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon V. Excellent once again for finishing off Pokemon. And then similar is the Regieleki, 120, and then we get to deal 40 damage to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So once again, finishing off things that we've done a load of damage to already, which is going to be excellent for us. In terms of consistency, we do also have a couple of Mew here, just to search out those items and allow us to search out our Pokemon, as the majority of our item cards are things like Level Ball and Quick Ball, so we definitely want those in our hand as quick as possible. Supporter cards, again, pretty standard. Professor's Research, Bruno, that type of thing in order to draw. And worth noting, we are playing 2 copies of Telescopic Sight, so we can actually boost our bench damage if we need to in order to get closer to those one-hit knockouts where needed, but for the most part we're just softening things up with big Sparking and then finishing them off where needed. Let's get into the matches. If you enjoyed this video at any point, give it a like down below, as it really helps me out, and we have some really good matches for you in this one. Getting into this game, we have a pretty reasonable start, just nothing too crazy, but nothing terrible either. My opponent is playing a Psychic deck here. They have the Shadow Riders coming out, and that is going to be great for us, as we can get our Raichus into play and just start using that spreading attack to deal a huge amount of damage across all of my opponent's board, and then just tidy up with some other big attacks where we need it. Let's start with a double Level Ball. That's even better. We can certainly pull out a couple of Pokemon here. I think just getting a couple of Pikachu is going to be the best route for us. We do have 3 Raichu in the deck, as well as the other supporting Pokemon we have, so pretty good start overall. And we do also have the scope that we can play down if we want. Don't see why not, so yeah, we'll get out these Pikachu, play down these tools that we have, and then go for a Professor's Research. Definitely want to draw as many cards as we can here before using the Mew, just to ensure that we have all of the options available. Let's Quick Ball away the energy. Suppose we could attach it, but there's not really any demand to attach it right this turn, so we can hold off for the time being. And there's also the training core in play as well, of course. We can make use of that. Let's Great Ball, and let's see, what do we get? We get another Pikachu. I don't really want another Pikachu at this time. I think we'll just take the Zapdos for the time being instead. And I think, yeah, we'll go for the Mew now. See what we get. We get a Level Ball, we get a Great Ball. Let's Great Ball instead. See if we can find a useful Pokemon on the following turn potentially. And we'll Training Core, get this energy back. Might as well attach it since we can. And we'll pass over to my opponent, as there's not really any need to play out any of these cards. If they Marnie us, then it'll be a little unfortunate, but there's not really any demand or rush, as I say, to play these cards out. So we'll just take it nice and easy, see what my opponent does from here, and on the following turn we can look to promote our Raichu, deal 80 damage to all of my opponent's Pokemon, and really just take it from there. My opponent does have a Shadow Rider VMAX just about set up here. They do have the Energy Acceleration, which is going to allow them to draw cards, and they just need the 3rd energy to go onto that VMAX in order to start attacking. Although they do also need a switching card to get this Zamazenta, out of the active spot, or Zacian even, not Zamazenta. It is indeed the Swordy Boy dog. So, yep, there's that other energy coming down. We do have that available. Oh man, we have a tool scrapper as well. Getting rid of our tools, so we're stuck just dealing 50 damage at a time, but at the very least we do have another air balloon, and there's the Marnie. My opponent just had all of the answers. Apparently they got everything that they needed to get their board going, and they also had the disruption against our board. But we draw into some good Pokemon here. We do get a Flaaffy. We're just looking for a Raichu off of the Marnie here, and my opponent goes ahead and uses the ability, so it just goes back over to us. We can certainly play out these cards, as I say, pretty good ones, and we can make use of them before the Marnie. Do want to get much off of this though? Potentially just another Pikachu, I think, is going to be the best option. We can hold off on some of the other attackers until later on in the game. Not really disrupting my opponent a huge amount, as we don't have anything going on. We really need a air balloon, so Great Ball here, try and thin the deck and work towards the air balloon off of the Mew. Can we find it? Yes, we can. It's one of the only items that we can actually get, so definitely happy to see that. And we can evolve into this Raichu here. We can retreat and start dealing a little bit of damage with the Raichu. Like I said, real unfortunate that my opponent got rid of the Telescopic Sight, as we're stuck dealing 50 damage everywhere rather than 80, but it is still a good start. My opponent playing down another Shadow Rider here, as well as a Alcremie or Alcremie V, so they are playing the Alcremie VMAX support in the Shadow Rider build that they've got here. Fair enough, I mean it's not a terrible Pokemon, it can deal some big damage, get a nice big one-hit knockout, but certainly not needed in my personal opinion anyway. I don't play it in my deck, as you would have seen in my recent Shadow Rider video that I did a couple weeks ago. My opponent going for a switch though, as they do need that in order to start attacking with a Shadow Rider. They get a couple of air balloons down of their own as well, and that is going to allow them to get a knockout on our Raichu. Now of course my opponent is just stuck dealing the one attack into each of our active Pokemons, so we now are essentially on a timer to try and win this game, which is a little scary, but it's something that we can work with for sure. I think we'll play down a Zapdos now, not really any reason not to, and we'll go for the Ordinary Rod as well. I think we'll go for a Training Court first, just to get that energy out of there, and play it down onto our board, onto a Pikachu seems fine, and we'll Ordinary Rod, get those Raichu and Pikachu back into the deck. Definitely going to be useful, and we can go for a Bruno, getting 7 cards. Since my opponent did take a knockout, definitely need as many cards as possible here. We do also get into a Stadium. I suppose it's not going to be super useful, so we'll just hold off on it for the time being, and we use our Mew. Oh man, all Pokemon and a couple of trainers, but yeah, nothing that we can actually take, as Mew only gets item cards, so we'll just have to retreat into our Raichu, and once again spread 50 damage across my opponent's board. So at least now the Shadow Riders, or some of them, have a 100 damage on them, which is a pretty good start, good position to be in, and we can look to use some supporting Pokemon here if we need it, or we could just try and use the Raichu every single turn and take multiple knockouts that way as well if we need to. My opponent just building up even more energy here. They are drawing through their deck as well with these Shadow Riders, attaching those energies, drawing 2 cards, and oh man, a second Tool Scrapper. No one is playing 2 Tool Scrappers in this format, surely not, but there we have it. My opponent plays 2 Tool Scrapper, which is just unheard of, totally overkill and unnecessary, but we now cannot promote our Mew, as it's just going to be a liability. I think we can promote a Pikachu though, and hope that we get a another Raichu to try and spread some damage again. It's going to be the best bet for sure. We can get a energy attached manually from our hand. We can also go for a Training Court if we want to, but I think using the ability here on our Flaaffy makes a little bit more sense, as we can then actually accelerate it. Now, do we want Zapdos or Regieleki? We can deal 120 and 40s. I think it seems reasonable. We can hit the active. Zapdos only hits the bench, so yeah, we'll put one there for now. And do we Bruno or do we research? That is the question. I think we just research for now. Yeah, there's not really any reason to Bruno. I'd rather just draw the cards rather than shuffling cards into the deck. And we do indeed draw into a Raichu, which is perfect. Once again, no Telescopic Sight, which is a bit of a shame. But we can once again deal 50 damage across my opponent's board and try and set up some knockouts. But as I say, we're very much on a timer here to try and get, even if we knock out 2 VMAXs, then that is going to win us the game, although we are on a clock. If we do Raichu 2 more times, that would be 100 damage across my opponent's board. Not quite enough. We'd have to try and get a Telescopic Sight for it to actually work out that way, so yeah, not a great spot, I have to say, but we do have options. That's the main thing. I suppose we could go capture and retreat the Mew. That seems good, so we'll do that. And we do have 1 energy in here. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be lacking in energy now, as we have to get another energy for the Flaaffies to actually be effective, which is rather unfortunate, as we can't retreat our Mew now. Let's go for it anyways. We can get a quick ball, but we don't have the energy in our hand. We can get Telescopic Sight, but we don't have a Raichu, so this is really falling apart here, which is a real shame. We can capture though anyways, I think. It's not really going to make a difference though, actually, so we'll just put it onto the Regieleki, and we use a Flaaffy to get an energy on there as well. Although we have to imagine at this point my opponent probably has a boss's orders, so we'll just pass over to them. We do have a Raichu available at the very least. Not that we have the energies, but I mean, my opponent has the training court still available, and they are going to be attaching even more energies, try and build up as much damage as possible, but in doing so they are also drawing cards from their deck, so just 12 cards remaining. I suppose we do only have 14 ourselves, as we're trying to draw through our deck as much as possible. And there we go, as expected, my opponent has the boss's orders, going to be taking out our Regieleki. They don't want to be dealing with that, and they go down to just 2 prizes. We can at least promote our Pikachu and evolve it into a Raichu. We have some stuff going on for us at the very least. We can attach onto the active and get some damage out, and we can also accelerate energy onto our Zapdos and get damage out that way as well as an option. And that's pretty much all we have going though. I suppose we don't really need this, we don't need the training court. We could search for a Pokemon, which could potentially be useful. The only downside is that it has to be a basic lightning, and we don't have any guarantee that we're going to get another Raichu, so it doesn't seem too great. We're just going to be relying on the Zapdos, I think, so we'll keep the training court in play, and let's go for a big wave of damage with this Raichu. We're going to be getting a knockout on a Zacian, as well as another Pokemon there as well, so we get a couple of prize cards. There's a Raichu. We're going to be getting, I believe, 4 prize cards right here. Not unless we take another knockout. No, it's just 2 Pokemon V that we knocked out. A Cramorant as well as the Zacian, that's what it was there. So definitely reasonable, as we got the 2 big knockouts, being able to take multiple prize cards. My opponent knocking out our Zapdos to try and deny that, and we are just stuck using our Raichu now. I suppose we could hit... Oh man, are we going to be stuck here? That is the question. We could go in with Mew. Yeah, I think we're actually fine. We can just knock out the active. They only have 120 HP, so we can actually go in, attach with the Mew, and then retreat into the Raichu. So yeah, we're good here. We're all good. We can attach active. We can use our Flaaffy to accelerate some energies onto the Raichu, and then that is us. We're going to be able to close out this game by taking a knockout on my opponent's active Pokemon. with the second attack on Raichu, and that's what I was saying about the second attack. You have to keep that in mind, as it is a perfect way to finish off a big threat in this situation, finishing up the last couple of prizes after taking a bunch of knockouts from spread damage. So it was very close, came down to the wire, but we were able to actually close out as a victory with the Raichu deck, because we're just constantly putting so much pressure on, and my opponent's not able to deal with the bench damage which is stacking up. So very awesome deck. Let's get into the next one. Going into this game, it's going to be an interesting one once again, as we're up against a single strike Urshifu deck, or just single strike in general I suppose, as we can have a lot of different variants within single strike itself. This is going to be really reliant on us getting our Raichus set up here in order to deal some spread damage, as well as just some big damage in general. Let's go ahead and put down our stadium card here so we can search out some basic lightning Pokemon that we can use to work with. Definitely want to get out a Mareep, and we'll go for a Great Ball as well. Search out, oh, we have a lot of options here. Let's go for another Pikachu, that seems fine. And we do also have an Air Balloon we could use if we want to. Not really in a rush to use that. I suppose we could research as well. Let's just put down the Air Balloon then on the Mareep, and we'll research away this hand. Seems reasonable enough. And we do get a couple of lightning energy with a Quick Ball, which is pretty good, as we can then discard one of those and look to get out a Mew, just in case we need it in order to get a nice setup going here. We can also get an attachment down. I think we go on to the bench, which seems reasonable, and we'll just pass over to my opponent from here. We could go on to the active, but of course they could always knock out our active Pikachu, so want to hold off on that for now and just kind of power up the bench for the time being anyways. My opponent does get the Houndoom into play, which is going to allow them to accelerate some energies onto the active single strike Urshifu, and they even get that Evolution Incense to get the VMAX into play as well. They are going to need a bit more energy though, as they do need 3 energy in order to attack, and that's really all they need, as the 100 damage is going to be sufficient in order to knock out our Pokemon, which are weak to fighting of course. They do get another energy down. Can they get much else going though? That is going to be the question. They get a Great Ball, get another Houndour into play, seems good to me. We see an Air Balloon coming down, and likely a pass. Very good from my opponent, I'd have to say. Let's go for a level ball. We can use this to search out a number of things, but I do have to say I'm going to be eyeing up a Flaaffy here. Makes the most sense, as we can then accelerate some cards and get some of those extra energies into play. Can also use my opponent's stadium here to actually discard a Bruno, which is pretty funny. We can then get a Raichu into play. Yeah, I mean my opponent does have 2 Pokemon V, so let's get that Raichu down. We can get the Air Balloon down as well before we use the Professor's Research and get some new cards into our hand. Unfortunate that we don't get a huge amount of extra energies, just the capture energy. Was really looking for a lightning energy in order to attack with the active, so that is pretty frustrating, I have to say. We do at least have the acceleration that we can make use of from our Flaaffy here, and we can use the capture on the bench as well. Man, that sucks not getting the energies to actually get an attack off with the active. It's going to be pretty difficult, but that's fine. We'll get our Zapdos into play, and we can make use of that at some point, and also put down a stadium, hopefully disrupting my opponent a little bit, meaning that they can't draw quite as effectively, but I'm sure they'll probably still have a supporter anyways. We're going to be losing a Raichu here. Oh man, they have the boss's orders. Of all the supporter cards that they could have had in their hand, they have the boss's orders, which is the perfect answer to what we're trying to do here. That sucks. We can at least promote a Mew, and we can get set up again, but oh man, that is a big blow, losing that Raichu with all of those energies. We can go ahead and attach one, I guess, onto a benched Raichu. Don't quite want to put down a Pikachu at the moment. I guess we could potentially use a ordinary rod, but I guess there's also not really any need at the minute, so we'll just go for a Bruno and shuffle our hand into our deck. We can also use our Stadium here and get another Mareep into play. Probably should have done that before we used the Bruno, but that's quite alright. It works out anyways. So we'll go for a Mew to see if we can get some useful cards. Just a level ball, which is fine. I mean, it is useful, just not right now. And we of course want to use our Flaaffy, of course, to accelerate some energy. Probably going to be putting onto the Zapdos. I suppose we could use the Raichu as well, so yeah, we'll start putting onto the Raichu so we can get a big attack off. We'll retreat, and we do get some big damage. Spreading 80 onto two of my opponent's Pokemon is nothing to scoff at, although my opponent is only taking 50 to the active for some reason. I guess they're somehow reducing damage. Not quite sure why that happened, have to admit. Oh, of course, the Telescopic Sight, my mistake. Telescopic Sight only applies for bench damage, that's the reasoning there, so just want to make that clear so that I of course know myself, but for you at home, Telescopic Sight only applies to the bench, so 50 damage to the active and 80 to the bench. Still pretty reasonable if you ask me. Of course, my opponent is going to be dealing enough damage, as I've mentioned. Hitting us through weakness is plenty to get knockouts on our fighting weak Pokemon. But we can continue to accelerate energy here nonetheless and try to take some big knockouts where we can. And we do have the level balls here to help us out, find the rest of our Pokemon that we need or could potentially use, and we'll just play down the rest of this hand essentially. We don't really need these level balls at the moment, so we'll just play the hand out. We can look to attach energy. We have the ordinary rods. Do we want to shuffle in energy? Probably not. No, we'll keep a hold of that. Just shuffle in some Pokemon. Going to be getting back a Pikachu as well as the Flaaffy here. Makes the most sense for sure. And we'll go for a nice Bruno. Shuffle the hand in, get 7 once again. Getting that Flaaffy into play so we can accelerate energies. And that's going to be perfect. Perfect setup. And this is exactly how we want to see the deck flowing. So we can get a item card off of our Mew. I suppose we get a Great Ball. Not super good at this point in the game, but we can at least thin the deck. And then we can retreat into our Raichu. Deal a nice big 180 damage. Going to be getting closer towards getting a knockout on this VMAX. And then we can look to spread some damage onto the bench there as well, which is going to be ideal. Let's see what my opponent has for us. Do they want to retreat here? Do they want to just leave this in the active spot and allow us to start spreading damage? We'll have to see for sure. My opponent gets out another VMAX with the Evolution Incense here. Makes sense. Want to try and get another one set up. And they are going to be using it straight away so that they can bring out our bench Pokemon. Not able to get our knockout though, as they are actually hitting into us and we have a resistance because it is actually a flying type Pokemon. So you love to see it, and my opponent's going to concede. Not quite sure that they needed to do that, as we could have tried to retreat or switch out or something, but sure they didn't have to concede like that, as they had plenty of options to work with. Just, I guess, in the moment, misplaying like that, knocking out or lacking to knock out a Pokemon when you think that you're getting a knockout can be quite frustrating. I've been there myself as well, I'm sure we all have, so we'll leave it there. I think that was a good couple of games, showed off the deck and its effectiveness against Pokemon V, and it's going to be brilliant going into Brilliant Stars, knocking out all of those Pokemon V-Star Pokemon. So hopefully you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next video.